Alright, welcome everyone to the MIDISketch v0.6 walkthrough video. We've done a lot of updates since the last one, which was at v0.3, and I wanted to just kind of make an overall video of how to use MIDISketch since so much has changed. This video will not talk about how to install it. It's pretty simple. The installers, you just run them, or if you want to manually install, then you can look up how to do that. You basically just got to put the plugin in your plugin folder. But yeah, this video isn't for that. This video is for anyone curious about MIDISketch and its capabilities, or someone that already has it and is looking at this screen right now, kind of like wondering where to go next. So the very first thing I want to talk about is the synth choice. So when you go to the top right and click synth, you can load your synth and you'll see all these yellow and green and red icons. These aren't entirely accurate. They're mostly yellow because that means I don't know if they work exactly, and there's just so many plugins, so it just kind of defaults to yellow. If it's green, that doesn't mean it 100% works. I'm still working on getting these all dialed in, and I would love feedback from what works and what doesn't from you guys, whether it's at, support email, support@midiscout.com, or commenting on this, just kind of like learning all the different plugins and how they're compatible. That information is very valuable. So one thing that I know is Serum and Serum 2 work. They're actually really good for demoing because Serum 2 works right out of the box. Like it works. Serum 1 needs a little bit of changing, and this is something that I think will help you learn how to approach other synths as well. So I'm making it sound complicated, but with Serum, if we go ahead and open that, and then we go to menu, what we have to do is we have to enable MPE. So if I click that, and then I go back to menu, you'll see it is now checked on. And basically what MPE is it's MIDI polyphonic expression. What this means is that, we've all done glide notes. We've all heard of that, and that's like a note shifting into each note, and that works if you have the porta on and you're in mono and all that. But if you want to have gliding like chords and multiple notes and just all of that, you need MPE. So MIDI, if we have 3 MIDI, and then polyphonic, which is 3 of them, and then expression. So let's do the expression part. So let's say we place a point on all of these by double-clicking a MIDI, and then we drag the beginning points to all merge together. What you're going to hear now is that we'll have 3 notes that open up and land where we want it to. So this is not going to be good, because I don't think we're in any kind of key here, but I mean, let's try it. It sounds like crap. Better. Still bad. Yeah, it sounds like trash because we're not in key and anything. I'm not worrying about that. I'm just demoing how to interact with it. But yeah. So that's MPE, is the notes are able to individually change their pitches. So you need to make sure that your synth has MPE enabled by default, or you can enable it. Again, I don't know all synths, there's just so many, but Serum and Serum 2 I know work very well. Serum 2 is literally right out of the box. So if we go here and we load up Serum 2 and go back in and I draw a note shift, you can see it works. If you want to get more info, I'd read this section. I'm working on making this easier and better. This is already a big upgrade from what we had before, but still working on making it a little more explanatory, I guess. But yeah, so load your synth, so we'll go ahead and do that. Load Serum 2, and then go back to our piano roll. In terms of more helpful stuff, I think this is good to include at the beginning of the video. If you go to the little heart, or not heart, the question mark button on the bottom left, you'll get all of the MIDISketch controls. Now, these are constantly changing. Sometimes I won't update the information in MIDISketch controls, so just keep in mind that these might, kind of change, but if you ever have a question, this is the best place to look, including the hotkeys. So for the pencil tool, let's say I was on the highlight tool. If I want to get back to it, I click B, or if I click M, it also works as well. So let's go ahead and talk more about actually handling notes, placing them, how all of that works. So the first thing I want to say is that essentially this is a lot like FL Studio's piano roll, because I just love that, but there's a lot of my own stuff added on top of it, and things that I've just learned that I like from other softwares, like Cinema 4D, Blender, Photoshop, Illustrator, like all of these other visual softwares, even Ableton for audio. I've taken a lot of the creative softwares I've used throughout my long time of doing digital media and all mediums, and kind of merged all the features that I like the most into MIDISketch. So in terms of placing notes, it's very simple. You have your pen tool, you place a note. If you want to extend the length, you can do that. And then when you place notes, it'll copy whatever your last selected note length was. So if I reduce this and click it, I can now get smaller notes. When you place it, do keep in mind that it's not gonna exactly be in the box that you place, because if I'm just a little to the left of this line, I still want the start to be here. So it should feel right. That's how FL Studio works. But yeah, so that's how you place notes. The next thing that you're gonna wanna know is that we have pitch points. So this is a normal MIDI note, right? It has a start time, it has an end time, and that's pretty much it. You also have velocity, but it's a normal MIDI note. This is what we expect from the piano roll. In terms of what MIDISketch can do is we can actually bend and curve notes as well with pitch points. So if I double click with the pen tool, or the pencil tool, on a note, I'll add a point right where I select, and it'll also spawn in a point at the beginning and at the end. This allows you to adjust a note, exactly how you want it. You can put it wherever you want. You can change it around. And if you want to extend it, you can drag it and it'll create a new point. So this is really nice to just, if you're working on one note and you want to work down the line, you can just drag it, place a point, move that point, say I want one now here, and then I wanted this to go up, and then I want to go here, place a point down, and have it just drop down suddenly like that. Like, it's super easy to just work through and keep doing that. In terms of adding curves to your notes, this is done by using Beziers. This is very similar to how Photoshop works. So 2 ways to do this. You can either, with the middle mouse button, click on a point and drag, and you'll see it adds this Bezier. If you want it to stay locked in, you can hold down Shift, and it'll keep it on the horizontal axis or the vertical axis. So let's say we want horizontal. If you want to move the handles around, you can click and drag them. If you hold down Alt and drag it, you do one handle at a time. So this is nice if I wanted this to stay, perfectly straight, but I wanted this to dip down super sharp. I can bring it down like that. To make a point not Bezier anymore, you can middle mouse button click it, or with the pencil tool you can click it. So with the pencil tool, or not the pencil tool, sorry, the point tool, if I make a Bezier, move it around, which you can see I'm doing the individual with the point tool, I'm able to grab a Bezier handle and move it individually. But then if I click the point, you'll see it resets it to normal. So this is great for just, drawing whatever you want, whatever kind of shapes, and getting really fine, precise motion. So if I put a point here and I want to Bezier that, now you can see I have some really interesting bends here in whatever way I want. Maybe I wanted to say I want it to dip a little more right before it slams up into the next note. So let's bring this one in because I want that to stay the same, and I want that to go there. And I can even add a point here too. And then let's bring this point back in, and let's Bezier. Also, scroll, like I said, Control and scroll, Alt and scroll. Now we can get really close, and I can adjust. So let's do something like that. So bend down, and then slam up. Obviously, it doesn't sound great. We got a high saw wave, so it's not going to be pleasant on the ears. But that's how that works in terms of customizing the note. To add vibrato to a MIDI note, it's very simple. All you do is you have your points, you select, or you have 2 points that you want the vibrato to go in between. You take the point tool, you highlight those 2 points. You can either left click in the piano roll or right click, and then you right click in the piano roll or on the note, and you do add LFO. The way that this works is it's going to add multiple points in the shape that you select. So right now we have a sine wave. We could do Lin or saw. I plan on adding other ones and kind of dialing these in more in the future. But say we just want a basic sine wave vibrato. You can add a bunch of points, make it super dense. You can also sample and listen to it by just playing it. So this is, straight, very slow vibrato, very fast. You can change the depth as well. I would base this on your ear and what you're seeing, not as much on the actual number here. So I'd kind of play around with that and listen. Skew is just skewing it one direction or the other. So if we wanted to kind of ramp up, see how it's getting deeper with it, we can do skew, or we can do the opposite way. And then you just apply it. I'm gonna undo it though, Control Z. And yeah, that's how you do LFO, or vibrato rather. The next thing I want to talk about that I've done a couple times, but I don't think I've talked about, is segment moving. So if you click and drag between 2 points on a MIDI, you can move that segment around. What that means is it's the space in between the 2 points that you clicked in between, is this segment. If you want to move an entire MIDI note, you click and hold, and then you get the entire MIDI note to move around. So if I made this drag that up and then click and hold, I can move the entire note around. I can also scale the note as I would like, adjust it. This also works if you have multiple notes. So if I select all these with the highlight tool and move it around, you can see, just customize the size, and then say now these points are out of pitch. I can just, move them back down and it'll auto snap. If you don't want points or anything to auto snap, Control and Alt are gonna generally be your best friend. So if I hold down Control with this point and go up and down, you can see I'm not locked to pitch exact notes. I'm unlocked, and you can see the sense moving around as we get very fine tuning. And then Alt is in the time axis moving stuff. If I hold Control and Alt, I am completely unlocked and able to move this however I want. All right, to be honest, this is my 3rd time recording this video. I forgot to have my audio on earlier with my microphone, so sorry if I'm hopping all over. It's hard for me to remember what I've done and what I haven't done since I've done it 3 times. So let's go ahead into the next feature. The next thing I want to talk about, I think that's pretty important, is the playback settings. So the most important stuff you're gonna have to pay attention to here is this loop bar that you can grab and move around. This sets the length of your MIDI and like the loop point. And then what you're also gonna want to know is your playback settings. So in terms of start at bar, the way that this works is if you go to your DAW, so in FL Studio, you can see the timeline starts at the start of bar 1. So what this means is that if we have the bar or start at bar set to 1, we're gonna start at the same time as, you know, FL Studio starts, right there at number 1. But if I wanted to, you know, let's say we wanted to delay it so that we only come in after the first, I forget what you call this, the first 4 bars. If I set that to number 5, because I want to start right at the number 5 mark, if I put that up, and then I go here and play, it's not going to do anything until we hit that 5. So let me go ahead and highlight an area, go here, and then when it hits it, boom, we're having playback. Loop count is how many times that's going to loop. This is a little finicky right now. I'm still kind of working on it. But yeah, just how many times you want something to loop. So say if I had this, if I wanted this loop bar set to right there, and I trim this. So for 2 beats, it's going to play the note, and then it's going to not play the note, and it's going to loop that. If I go to 5 to start this, and then I have it set up to like, I don't know, 6 loops, you'll see when I play, it's going to play, silence, play, silence, play, silence. And it should do that 6 times. But again, I think that's a little finicky right now. And then output is enabled and disabled. This is very obvious. Disabled just does nothing. Enabled does what it should. And you can see also as I adjust start with bar, it adjusts the timing of the visual, like the highlighting and all that. Still working on making that super clean, but it should kind of correspond to your DAW, depending on, you know, what your DAW looks like. And what I mean by that is, like, you see how this section is lighter, and then it goes darker for bars 5 through 9. You can see the same thing, 1 through 5, 5 through 9. Speaking of the settings on the right, let's go ahead and talk about join length and scale. Scale is very simple. This is just scale highlighting. If you turn it on, click a note, click the mode of it. So if we want to do something like an A minor, you'll see all of the white keys are selected. That's because it's an A minor, and all of the A's are in green. So you're looking for the light colors, and the green colors here are going to be your scale. I'm working on making this a little prettier, but it's pretty basic. And then join length. Join is something really cool. So join is, it just basically merges notes together, but it makes it so that you can draw MIDIs in the way that you're kind of used to, of just doing like a melody. Like this is, I mean, just completely randomly placing notes, just trying to keep them at least in the C major, A minor scale here. Say we have this. If we want to merge all these so that they slide together, I can highlight all of them with the highlight tool, which is H, and then I can join them by either right-clicking on a note and clicking join, or just clicking J on the keyboard. And that's gonna merge all the notes together, so now we totally have our MPE. So you can see it has that slide aspect to it. I mean, this will actually sound semi-cool if I give it a little more oomph. I can imagine this being pretty heavily distorted. Let's give it a low high. Just give it reverb. Plate. I like a little hall here, I think. Let's see what this sounds like. And you can see, I mean, that sounds pretty cool. But if you want to adjust the points to change how your slide kind of sounds, like that's really fast. If I wanted it to kind of like slam into it a little more, but I wanted it to kind of like start drifting off early so you can feel it coming. See, I mean, that's the capabilities of this, man. It's so freaking cool. All right, I kind of forgot what I was doing. Give me a sec. Oh yeah, join. So that's what happened when we joined all those notes, right? But say if the way that the join works is it basically takes the start of the note that's going to be merged to the other note and moves it inwards however much the join length is. So if we have it at half, if I go ahead and select these, you're gonna see it merges it half of a beat before the start of a note. So half a beat before, it's gonna put a point there and connect those. So if I want that to be an entire beat, I can do that by just selecting one and then joining them. If I wanted it to be 4 beats, so it should be a bar. You can see if I do J, it's that entire distance to connect these. So you can have stacked notes, you can really mess around, get something in a key, and then you can just go ahead, select it all and click J and just see what you get, man. It might not sound great. We were also at a full bar there, so let's do something like half. Select these, do J, and there. Yeah, I mean, again, obviously gonna sound trash because we're just placing stuff randomly, but that's how join works. I think join is super cool and gonna be one of the most used features for a lot of people. Next thing really quickly is the cut tool. Cut tool is very simple. You click C, you can cut stuff. You can cut along bends. It's a little janky. I'm still trying to dial that in a little bit better. But if I do this and then I make it have a little bit of a bezier and zoomed in, click C and cut, You'll see it kind of does it. It creates points on each end, and I can move those around as I would like to. Again, it's a little janky though, but for the most part should do the job. Before we get into kind of the stuff on the top bar, let's talk about press, slide, and velocity. So these are basically more ways to customize your sound in terms of like automation as well as, laying down points. So if I make an F note here, and if I go to press, this is basically your MPE pressure reading or whatever you want to call it. So if I lay down points here and automate just some totally random stuff, and then I go to, and by the way, this is a range. So you'll see the dotted line is like maximum. The minimum is the bottom of a MIDI. So if I go back to pitch, which you have to do to edit the MIDI and the pitch and all that, because there's different modes. If I go to pitch, lay down a point, and then I make it just go down, and I go to pressure, it's gonna take wherever the lowest point is, and that's where your range is. And you can see we have that dotted line there. So yeah, let's do that. Let's go here. Let's go pressure. Let's just lay down some notes. If you want to delete them, you can right click and drag, or just right click them. You can also, you don't have to click on the line to make a point, just anywhere in the box. Do all that. Just a bunch of random stuff. Then if I go to Serum 2, if I go to Matrix and I go to my MPE and I go to press for pressure, which is expression Z, and then I go max amount and I filter, or I assign this to my filter 1 frequency, turn that on, what you're going to see is that when I play this, that filter is moving with the note, just like an automation. Now, to some people, you might hear this and be like, oh, I can automate already. Like, well, this is nothing cool. No, this is very cool. And the reason that this is very cool is that this is per note. So if I want to do another note and I want this to be expressed in a totally different way, I can do that. So I could like, let's make this one a little more easy. I'll just make this constantly be ramping up, and let's have it be, I don't know, let's go to pitch and let's bring this as a high note so that you can really hear that high note come in. So you'll hear all the funky, warbly stuff of this F sharp 5. But with this F sharp, I'll just put it up, you'll hear this just constantly ramping up in terms of its LFO, or not LFO, filter. So here we go. Do you hear it just coming in? This is getting a filter, but this is still getting treated with its filter. Now, Serum 2 supports this really well. I can't speak on every synth, but yeah, that's that. That's pressure, and slide is the exact same thing. It's just a different parameter. I kind of always forget, though, to be honest, if this is... Okay, so expression-wide timbre is the same as the slide in Serum, but it's different for everything. I'll work on tagging these a little better to understand, probably using XYZ. But yeah, that's it right there. That's this pressure and slide. Again, this is like so sick that you can do per note customization. So you can do chords that are like the high note is doing some kind of like warbly thing that you draw on. Your low notes are doing different things as they pitch bend. Like the amount of customization and stuff people can do with how I have this set up, and just MIDIsketch in general. Like I'm so excited to see what people can make with this, because I'm building this with like the best producers in mind. Like I'm imagining if someone had a god tool of like a MIDI drawing software, what would they want? And constantly I'm trying to get feedback from you guys and implement and like test, but like that's my ultimate goal with MIDIsketch. And then in terms of velocity, I'm sure you guys are very familiar. This is just like FL Studio. You have strike and release. Strike is the initial velocity, how hard you press the note. Release is how soft or hard you let off of it. You just draw it for your notes. You can highlight a note to actually get the highlighted dot. So if they're in the same spot, they sometimes overlap. You can select the note. So if I go back to pitch, then I place a note here too. You can draw them. If I do Control A to select everything, I can adjust all my points as I draw. Release, it's the exact same thing. So pretty basic. You can toggle that up and down. Next, I want to talk about JI tuning. So if I go to a C, an E, and a G. So tuning in general, there's equal temperament, which is like you have your 12 notes and then they're spaced, and I'm pretty sure they're equally spaced in terms of their frequencies. But if you want to do something like just intonation, which makes it so that all the notes are mathematically perfectly harmonized or resonating, what you can do is you can take your select tool, highlight notes or pitch points, but right now we'll just do notes, and then right click it and click tune. What this is going to do is it's going to look at the root note that you have. So C, it's going to put that, and it's going to look for the scale. So we have C, E, G, that's a major, a C major. So it's going to select just major. Now, when I click apply tuning, what this is going to do is it's going to move my G up 2 cents to be a little sharper. It's going to move my E down about 14 cents to be a little flatter. So now what we have is we have a just intonation. I'm just going to delete these, and then I'm going to put my randomness. Well, actually, let's keep randomness up. That makes a just intonation chord, and the best way I can describe how that works is each note is mathematically locked to the other one, so that it sounds locked in. The sound doesn't really have beating or pulsing or phasing as much. It's just kind of like stagnant. So if I play it, I mean, it's moving because of the filter right there, but you'll see that's just really locked in. So if I Control Z and now they're just back to their normal points, it's hard to tell, but you can hear a little bit of warble in this. Sometimes that's the character you want. Most of the time, that imperfection adds character. But if you're really trying to get locked in sounds, like I'd listen to Alloboy. He talks about just intonation a lot. I'll put his name on the screen. He has a lot of music that kind of shows the sound. It's that very buzzy, locked in sound. And that's what you can do with MIDISketch now if you're into stuff like microtonality. In terms of ghosting notes is very simple. Double right click, you'll get this little cursor and drag over stuff. It's ghosted. It's not going to play, but it's still there if you want to refer back to it later. To unghost, it's the exact same thing. Double click and drag back over, or you can right click and then ghost or not ghost, which also leads me into my right click menu for notes. We also have changed color. So if I want to make a note red, I can do that. If I want to make my entire MIDISketch look different, I can go to file, I can go to design, let's change it to the white black, adjust the grid opacity. And yeah, so there's just kind of different styles to keep you in a creative flow state and fit whatever design you're looking for that matches the vibe of the track you're making. And also, since it's it's called MIDISketch, you want to be able to draw stuff. You got to be able to change your paintbrush color. So it shows red because that's the highlight color for anything that isn't green. But yeah, that's how you draw. My favorite actually though is gonna be the Deep Ocean. So we'll stick with that one. We also have arpeggiate too. So if I do G, E, we'll just do another C major. If I highlight all these and I right click and I do arpeggiate, this is something I want to work on and make a lot better, but right now it's very basic. It's just your rate of, how fast a note happens. The gate is basically how long the note is, or the time in between them. You have your note dot trip. This is the timing of it. If you want it to be an eighth note or an 8 dotted or 8 trip, which is triplets. Then your pattern, you have up, down, random. So just a couple arpeggiator settings. I'm gonna dial this in more, but I wanted to put something basic in just to start. I think I've talked about it, but you can also scale if you highlight. You can scale everything together, and you can do that both vertically and horizontally. If you hold down Shift, you can duplicate whatever you have. I think now would also be a good time to show that we do have highlighting. So if you go up to your top bar where you have your playhead, you right click with the pen tool, or you use the highlight tool and left click. You can select a section. You can select a section, and then if you click Control B, what it's going to do is it's going to take everything selected within it. So if I have that note selected, Control B, it's going to take everything that is selected and move it so that the start of the selection is at the end of the selection. So you can see it just duplicated both the note and the silence in between. So if I just keep doing that, you can see I can copy. Works the same way as FL. If you want to, change the timing to not be snapping, because right now it snaps, you can hold down Alt and it'll just be freely moving. So you can really dial in, what kind of timing you want for that. Another thing I want to tell you about is if you do Shift and you have your pen tool and you click, you can actually place points. So let's do boom, or hold on, Shift, boom, boom, boom. You can place points at any, point to customize if you hold down Shift. So this is good if you just want to, start laying down something and like placing it in different areas. You can really draw. This one is less musical because it's not as snapped and precise, but it's good for if you're trying to draw something or just get something down quick and then you want to adjust each individual pitch point or note or whatever. All right, let's talk about some of the features on the top bar. So the first one is record. I've now baked in MIDI recording. So if I go ahead and play and I just do, again, I keep doing C major because I'm terrible at music theory, but if I do C major, that was a little lower here, but you can see it, I actually recorded it in. So we'll do that again. So if I do record is on, it's enabled, I click space, and then I do, you can see it puts the notes there, and it doesn't actually lay down the note visually until you release the button, so something to keep in mind. Might work on that in the future. But now you have your notes here, and you can do all your adjusting, or what's really fun is you could here, we'll do record, and then click space. And I'm probably gonna add a countdown for that. That's something in the future to add, but you could also record from the DAW as well if you want the timing to be here. You can do it in plugin, or you can actually make it time based on your DAW. So if I go to 2, you'll see it starts at 2. But if I just do my finger kind of got caught there, but you get the idea. If I stop the DAW playing and I have all these, and I set my join length to a 4th, which I might actually have to add smaller numbers here, but select all that, click J, you'll see we get the ramp up of all these notes, which probably sounds wild. So from this to H, J, play. So pretty freaking cool. It's the record feature on off, pretty basic. We'll make it nicer in the future, but I just wanted to get it going. In terms of follow, if you click follow, the camera is always gonna stay tied to the playhead. If you wanna follow a specific note though, which is cool, also cam is coming soon, but it's there, but it doesn't do anything. If you wanna follow a note, you can place a note. Let me zoom in a little more because those were small. So say I have a C and I want to right click it and click follow note. Now when I play, the camera will actually follow the note. So the best way I can show this is by actually like placing notes and moving them as I go. Which it's kind of hard to do because it's moving, so I have to like grab a point as it's moving. Next, let's talk about export, because export has a lot of really cool potential here. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lay down just like a really basic, I don't know, just do that. Something that's obvious. And then let's add a little curve. Cool, so if I go to export, the very first thing I wanna show you is if you have a empty piano roll or whatever you got going on here, if you want to actually save a MIDI from MIDIsketch and bring it into your piano roll or wherever you hold MIDI in your DAW, you can drag the export button into it and it'll export a chopped up version. So it'll try its best to kind of like recreate this with individual notes so that you can actually keep this inside of your DAW without using MIDIsketch if you want. Obviously, it's nicer to use MIDIsketch because you can go in and customize all this, but if you really like something or want to try, you know, taking it the MIDI out, you're able to drag the export button. The next thing that you can do is if you have a synth loaded in, you can do export, and then you can do export audio. And once it'll export when you click the button, by the way. So that was kind of quick because this is very basic, but if you had a more complex chords and synth, that might take a while. But then you can save that, or you can drag to DAW, and essentially just takes a render of whatever you have in here and puts it, you know, an audio file into your DAW. So let's go ahead and disable this so we can hear. So you can see that's that exact sound. In terms of exporting, we also have export MIDI or export MPE. It says .mid, this should say .mpe. That's something I gotta fix. .mid is very simple. That's just normal MIDI, you know, like normal non-gliding notes, the stuff you expect. So if I were to, I also gotta make it so that when you lay a note and you cut it, I think it should automatically take this duration as your next automatic one. But anyway, if I lay down all these notes and I do export and I do export mid, and then if I delete all these notes, if I do file import, when I open it, you'll see they all come back as just normal notes. Something that's really cool too is I added merge, which is if I have like, let's say I already have a MIDI and I just wanted to import like an ARP that I have or something, but I want to keep like all my chords as is. So let's just say like, just something like that. Now I want to import what I just had. I can do file, merge, and that's going to keep my existing MIDI, but to add on top what I'm importing. So really cool feature there for like, maybe you can export stuff that you like and bring it into here if you ever want it later. And what's even cooler is when you do that with the MPE export. So let's say I have something like this, right? Let's make something super MPE, I guess. MPEE? I don't even know how to say that. Something like that. It's dumb, but you'll get the idea. If I go to export and then I do export MPE, now if I delete these and place a note down here and just, you know, move that around, say we, you know, made a really complex chord structure and we wanted to import something that we had, like some kind of shape, I guess, or something, you know, it really could be whatever you want. The .mpe format exports what you have in MIDIsketch, but a lot of softwares, literally all softwares will not support it because I built the .mpe file type for MIDIsketch specifically. But if I go to file and then I do merge MIDI/MPE, and then I do MPE test, you'll see that we get these up here. So this is really cool where you could like draw stuff and save out and export like these shapes or like ideas that you have, and then bring them in for later edition. So that's the export feature. Drag to DAW is essentially just explaining the whole aspect of what I said. Drag the export button. I just had that so you can get a little instructional to read it. File, you have undo, Control-Z, Control-Y for redo. We expect all that import we've talked about. Import audio, import image. Now this stuff is really cool. So let me prep an audio for the demo of this. So this is still a work in progress, but if we go to File and then we do import audio, and I'm just gonna select some kind of melody I have here. I got a bunch of Moon Boy ones. Let's just do this one. Now, when this scans, you got to keep in mind, it's going to scan not matching your BPM. So I'm importing a 130 BPM. It's going to be in here as 130 BPM. So I'd probably want to adjust my BPM to match that. But what you can see is when it's done, it imports the actual frequency, like response of the audio so that you could come in and like recreate whatever this sounded like, which if I click on audio, I can actually hear that. So you can see there's like these plucks and I could actually like lay down the plucks to get what would be essentially the same sound. I'm still working on getting this, you know, cleaner. There's a threshold if you want to really tighten up, like see all the frequencies or tighten up to just the really prominent ones. Opacity also, if it's too much, or brightness. You can adjust all that and get your audio. But this is a really good way to like take maybe someone sing. One great example of this, I actually think, is taking someone singing and then tracing their singing pitch and then applying that to like an instrument. So you can have your instrument sing with a very human pitch, flow, and imperfections and curves and all that. And you can apply that to an instrument like a flute or literally just like a synth, like a super saw. So, I mean, super cool feature there. I think a lot of potential. I'm going to work on dialing it in a little better and make it more accurate to see, but it works as is right now. And even if you did a little processing to the audio before you brought it in, I think you could like really make those points more prominent and easy to understand. Import image is the same thing, except you bring in an image if you want to trace it or something for good social media posts. So if I do import image, okay, so right now, unfortunately, I guess I broke the import image feature. I'll re-implement that, but luckily it's such a small thing most people don't even care about. But the way that it would work is there'd be an image here and you can change the scale of it and then you can trace it. So if I held down shift, I could literally like draw around it and then... Also, I don't know if I've mentioned this yet, but right click to delete a point. I actually have no idea if I did, and that's very important. So yeah, a little bug there. I guess I gotta fix that feature. I just kind of ignore it ever since I put it in. Yeah, at this point, I think that wraps up everything. I mean, one thing I want to say, I don't know if I talked about it a bunch, but when you're importing your synth, I would highly recommend reading this. You got to make sure that it's an MPE synth for it to have the best compatibility. And if your pitch bends seem smaller, like say you're going up a whole octave, but it only goes up like a semitone or two, I would recommend checking the pitch bend range. Using AI like ChatGPT or Gemini could probably help you with a lot of that as well, like looking up synths. But yeah, I mean, test it out. It's got a 7-day free trial. You can see if your combinations work. Email me if anything works or doesn't work. Like if you just have information, I would love to hear all of it because it helps me develop this plugin and make it even better. But yeah, I think that covers pretty much everything you want to know about v0.6. So hope you guys enjoyed. I got a beat battle right now. If you go to midiscout.com/plugins/MIDIsketch, I'll also have the link down below. We got a $200 beat battle. Winner gets $100. You have to use MIDIsketch and post a video showing the beat, but showing MIDIsketch at the same time. Use hashtag MIDIsketch. We're also selling licenses right now. You can do a 7-day free trial, but you can buy your license to have all future updates for totally free. You just activate it with your license key that you buy, and then forever you can update and it'll always stay activated. Sorry, I was burping there. It's the end of the video. I don't care anymore. If you made it this far, I appreciate you a ton. Hopefully this was a good guide. I'd really love to hear you guys' feedback. I'm really excited to see where MIDIsketch goes. We got a lot of people that are hitting me up that are some big producers that I'm really excited to like have them share this. So I'm trying to really grind and make this the best that I can before, you know, potentially masses of people start seeing this. So hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you liked the plugin. Give me feedback, support@midiscout.com, and I will see you later. Peace.